Hello and welcome, everybody, to Crafting with Kara. This is going to be just another Yack and Yarn, kind of a discussion of what happened a little bit last month, as well as what's been happening in December. It's we can call it Vlogmas. It's Vlogmas. Because it's so festive and fun. Although I won't be like vlogging every week or every day or anything like that. But yeah, I'm making a yarn advent, which I really like. So I'm going to be talking about that as well as a few Christmas makes and things like that. I've got my fun little festive mug, drinking some of that peppermint mocha, feeling very festive and loving it. Um, yeah, so let's dive right in. I've got Mahogany here. Oh, the kisses. The kisses for the pretty girl. You're such a sweet girl. Yeah, thank you. I'm wearing a sea glass cardigan. Because earlier I had to like go to the doctor's office and you need like the sleeves available, and now I get to be all cozy, which is real fun. I know. I will show you one of my current whips right now. I've been working on just pretty bland two at a time socks. And this is how far I've gotten, to the point that I'm wondering now, like, when do I need to work in the heel and things like that? Um, these I'm making for my dad, and recently he said that he wanted for Christmas he wanted socks, which worked out perfectly because I have yet to ask him what size his foot is, and so I did that for those just to make it seem like and now I know what size foot to make these, which is very exciting. I'm surprised they look more symmetrical on camera than I thought. Because in actuality, like you can tell the toes started different, and so I really thought that it would be kind of drastically different which one was which. Especially because to me, like this one, when I was pulling different string, you could really tell, oh, this is the one with blue string, this is the one with white string. But now that you hold them together, it's really similar. It's pretty darn close. So that's exciting that they're more symmetrical than I anticipated. Yeah, I have yet to figure out what heel I'm gonna do. I can look back at the pattern that I was doing because for now I was just kind of knitting without really thinking. And so I have to look back and see if it's an afterthought heel and I just keep going like crazy, or if you can in fact work a heel when you've got two at a time. I'm sure at one point you just, focus on one heel and then you focus on the other heel of the other sock. So yeah, I'll figure it out. I'm not entirely sure, but I'll work on it. So these are going along pretty well. They are not going to be done by Christmas, and that's okay with me. I also, as mentioned, have an Advent sweater, but I have one more thing that's a little bit Christmas gifty. So, for one of my nieces and nephews, their favorite animal right now is a pterodactyl. So, I got this pterodactyl stuffed animal, and if you can tell, there's like a zipper in the belly, and so you can fill it, and it came with little babies inside, which is just so darn cute. But I was mentioning it to a friend, and so these are the little pterodactyl babies, which are just so darn adorable. They got like little stuff on the stomach, and they've got this little head thing. So there's three of them, and I was telling this to a friend, saying like, "Isn't this kind of crazy?" Back in the '90s, they had like horses and cats and dogs that was like adult mom, and then you like had a belly and you pulled out little babies, and I loved those, and as a kid I thought that was real fun. So when I saw this, I was like, who doesn't want tiny baby pterodactyls? They're so cute. um and so I mentioned that to her, and she was just like, yeah, but don't they lay eggs? Like, why are you pulling it out of her stomach like that? And I thought, Well, let's make this scientifically accurate. So I decided to crochet little itty bitty eggs. So you tuck the little guys inside, and then there we go. So this one, that way you can see its little face and it pops out like that. I also made, this was my first try. I decided not to rip it out because in general, I don't think that my niece is going to be super excited about playing with the eggs itself. But this was my first try. I thought about tucking it so that way you don't see the pterodactyl baby at all. And then you unfurl it and you do. This one was my second one, in which I thought we don't need to do that. And then I tried fitting them into said stomach and realized they don't fit too much. So this one I just made a little egg cup. And so we've got just an egg itself and the little head, like it's cracked already. So the way that this guy works is I'm sure you can keep the babies inside the belly or you take them out and then it kind of gets deflated belly wise. So I thought that one of the best things about these little egg cups is they provide stuffing in the belly for these little guys. And then when, you want to play with the babies, you can, and the mom will still have like a full stomach. So I'm very excited. It's all just single crochet, or in the UK, double crochet, which I learned confidently. I half remembered that that was a thing, but I was watching Game of Wool. I don't know if you've seen it. It's pretty awesome. It seems like the internet really kind of hates it, but I like watching it because it's a reality show with knitting, and it does seem like it's super strenuous tasks, and they're asking a lot. Like you have 10 hours to knit something, like 10 hours of knitting is a lot. And then even hearing about interviews afterwards where people are like, "Oh yeah, you have to decide like whether you want to pee or whether you want to knit because sometimes you don't have time for both," which is crazy. But I'm loving the show. I think it's fabulous. I and Tom Daly's in it. Sorry, dog hair. I Tom Daly's the host. He definitely has some like learning about how to be a host going, but it's going really well and it's fun and I like it. I There was some controversy in my opinion about people who left like the first 2 weeks, maybe not necessarily being the best ones voted off, or like you needed to show the audience a little bit more about why that happened. But I think they're on to week 5 now. They have like 6 people left, 4 people left. I don't know. There's not that many people left. And at this point, there's a lot of talent to the point that it's like, oh, these were like the core people that were really, really great. Not to say that the people who got voted off weren't, they were fabulous too. But I just think we're left with people who have a lot of talent right now. I just if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend finding it. You can do the VPN thing, or you can I just try and search it on YouTube. Or if you're lucky enough to be in the UK, you can watch it live and therefore like promote it and have it be like kind of like you vote with your dollar, except in this case you vote by watching it live on TV. So, Game of Wool has been my new favorite thing, which is very exciting. I've been one who was watching Great British Bake Off in October. Knitting some Stephen West, watching some Bake Off. Those two things go hand in hand, and they just make me so happy. And then maybe not as soon as that ended. There might have been like a week or two of overlap or like a week of gap, but it picked up pretty quickly after the Game of Wool, came weekly, and then I was watching it, and it's so fun. I really like just sitting down, stitching, whether it's crocheting, some eggs, or whether it's crocheting, like little granny squares or making a blanket or something. And just enjoying watching other people knit. It's been fascinating to watch people literally stitch. Like somebody like pointed the needles outward, like real crazy out. Well, I guess I'm not sure. Here, I can demonstrate. So yeah, somebody pointed them like this and like and was doing stuff, obviously, like moving yarn, and the strings were moving. It was crazy. So yeah, that one, I think her name was like Jen or something. She, in the first episode, is the one with the peacock cardigan, like the real peacocky feather looking one. Yeah, I'm enamored with how she knits. It's just so interesting. And then it made me realize that like you could look at how everyone knit, and it's really fun. Uh, I even went to my local yarn store recently, and somebody was like, "Can you slow down how you're knitting? Because I want to see how you knit." And apparently, I don't do a conventional like English or continental. I do. So what? I throw it, but I don't know. It looks different than other throwers apparently. I don't know. That's the thing about, you learn some of this stuff on YouTube, you learn some in person, you learn some from books, and then the way you knit is the way you knit. So, Game of Wool has been really fun. I highly recommend it if you have not joined the watching crew. It's a good time. But yeah, so they talked about the UK crochet terms and things like that. It's always like one more than what the American versions are. So like single crochet is their double. Then we have something and they have half double, which you can get into the semantics of crochet. Half double to me is like if you said one half, or like half of two is one. What are we doing? So luckily for me, I don't know enough about the names to get all like, oh, well, that makes sense. So instead, the math brain of me, it just goes like, that doesn't sound like that should be a thing. But yeah, so for these were all single crochet, uh, with like a little magic loop, and I'm trying to, there, you can see that a little bit better. So yeah, they're magic looped, and then I just kind of made this up and just kind of made sure that it fit this little baby pterodactyls. And now look how cute. Oh, I'm so excited. I really hope my niece likes it. Uh, so I think that's really fun, and I wanted to show it off. And so I brought them out here. I also have my Stephen West shawl and my Advent thing, but before I move on, since I'm talking about things I like, I'm reading The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. I don't know if you are a fan of either crime novels or cozy murder mysteries or anything like that. Uh, but this one was a library book club that we're going to meet in the very beginning of January, and this was the book. And I was like, well, this honestly sounds fun. The description is like Knives Out with a holiday flair. I've read so many books that are trying to be Knives Out, which, if you're unfamiliar, is a movie with so many cast members. Jamie Lee Curtis comes to mind. Daniel Craig, excuse me, Daniel Craig, uh, Captain America, Chris Evans? Chris Evans. And a whole bunch of other people. It's great. It was a really good movie, and then I feel like a bunch of authors tried to replicate it, and very few of them did a good job because it's just hard to make something that was so good into a book that you're like reading after when they're like, it's like Knives Out. No, it isn't. This so far is at least fun. I don't know if it's Knives Outy because I feel like so much of Knives Out is like the layers of the mystery, and I am like a quarter of the way through, maybe less. And so it's all just set up and everything. I For me, one of the downsides is there's a bit of this happened in the like they'll tell you about the present and then they'll go back to the story to tell you. So it's like, oh, how did we get in this situation? It's more fun. Just tell me the story and I'll figure it out myself. Like, there are little moments where they'll be like, oh, and can you tell me about the people who were there? And then the next chapter is like, the people who were there. Yeah, I could have figured that out on my own. I don't need to pay attention when you're introducing characters. I'm reading a book. I can, picture characters in my head. Anyway, I that's my one comment about Allie Carter's book so far. Everything else has been lovely. It's been so fun. I really love it's like light Christmas, and it's very tropey to like all those Christmas rom-coms that like, oh, she's a girl who hates Christmas. Christmas hates her. Oh, like it's just so fun. And like we know they're gonna fall in love and it's gonna be so great, but right now they're enemies and it's cute. So this has been fun. I also have been watching some Christmas movies so far. I always try to find some new ones just to figure out what's good, and some are so good that they like can bear repeating. I'm one who's like, okay, I'm looking for like an actually good Love Actually. Um because Love Actually, when you rewatch that, you're like, none of these relationships are healthy. It's a great movie and I love it and it's so festive and there's so much Christmas. But you just look at all those relationships and you think, this isn't this isn't a great representation of what these relationships should be. But hey, I still might end up watching it this year. But because of that, I try to watch like fun romantic comedies just to give things a go. I have Netflix, as I mentioned. I was watching Great British Bake Off, so I still have Netflix from that. I'm one who like changes streaming services very frequently, so I don't consistently have Apple. But like for 2 months this past year, I had Apple, and then now I've got Netflix and things like that. Um, so Netflix has My Secret Santa. If you like Mrs. Doubtfire and if you like Christmas, that one's one to add for your list. They steal so many of the Mrs. Doubtfire jokes, and they know exactly what they're doing. It's very fun. Obviously, it's not Robin Williams, R.I.P., but it's fine. But I gotta tell you, my favorite that I watched yesterday, going in completely assuming that it was going to be terrible. The movie's name is Hot Frosty. The premise is like a snowman, like Frosty the Snowman had a hat land on his head and he came to life. And all the children say, whatever the song is. This movie is that happened to a human man. He then it has a scarf on him and he is now a human who woke up, minutes ago and has to, like is a quick learner though. And you think it's going to be just the worst movie. It's going to be terrible. And they were so tongue in cheek without being like overly. It was so good. It threaded the needle that it genuinely is a good movie and it's also funny and ludicrous and it's great. There's a lot of really good cast members. So I'm terrible at actor names, hence the Chris Evans thing a minute ago. Heck, Chris Evans could even be wrong. Um, but in Hot Frosty, if you don't have Netflix, I would recommend like going to the library or something, trying to get that DVD, attaining it somehow, because it's really fun. It's got the guy from Schitt's Creek, Alexis's boyfriend. So like he's the hot guy, which is fun, hence the Hot Frosty. It's got Gretchen from Mean Girls. Yeah, it's great. And then quite a few other people who have been in a lot of things. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the like funny cop, the buddy cop guy. Craig Robinson, who is Daryl from The Office, as well as the main guy from Killing It. Um, Fantastic. Highly recommend. I thought it was going to be so cheesy and so bad, and it ended up being fantastic. I might watch it next year if I like have Netflix then. Previously I've watched Spirited on Apple. That one I really like too. That one's a musical. This one was not. But yeah, it's fun to find classics that you end up loving. I As for me, my like repeat Christmas movies are Muppet Christmas Carol. Obviously, that's like That and Muppet Treasure Island are the best Muppet movies ever. I just love Muppets too. They're fun and they make things ridiculous and fabulous. I listened to that album as part of my like Christmas music, cycle. It's fabulous. Um so that one I'm definitely going to be watching either when I wrap presents or at some festive moment this time. Die Hard for me is always one that I watch. I My husband got me on it at first, but I like watching movies and figuring out how Christmassy they are. And so I always try to figure out, if you take away Christmas, does the plot still hold up? Because sometimes they just add like the setting, like they just add Christmas trees and Santa hats in the background. And so the setting looks like Christmas and absolutely nothing else in the movie has changed. Other times they make sure that the music is incorporated. That's another step that I consider. And then Hmm. I feel like there was another thing. So a lot of times I go in and I judge things based on 5 Santa hats, 2 of them being plot based, because to me that's twice as important as everything else. Like I said, music and setting are another two. And at the time I had a fourth category, but I can't recall what it is. Oh, the like feel good festive kind of ending. So, obviously, not all movies have to have that kind of festive ending, but with a Christmas movie, you don't want to like leave feeling worse. I'm even going to watch, I think it's called Violent Night. I have yet to see that one, and I mean Santa's there and it's got a clever Christmas name. I'm willing to give it a try. I want to see, if you take away Christmas, does it actually work? Like Gremlins, that one is supposed to be a Christmas movie, but really that could be, I've watched it and I've analyzed. That could be a birthday. That could be graduation. That could be anytime you give someone a gift. Because the whole thing is that, oh, I forgot a present for you, your anniversary, things like that. I forgot a present. And I've got to grab this weird little gremlin and then give it to you, and it's got a bunch of rules, and therein lies the movie. It happens to be a Christmas present, but it doesn't have to be at all for the plot to move forward. Die Hard, the reason I bring up these categories, Die Hard to me is a Christmas movie. I know the internet debates. Die Hard is a Christmas movie, in my opinion, because it's at a Christmas party. The only reason he's there is visiting his ex-wife or his separated wife. And she wouldn't otherwise be allowing him to come if it wasn't Christmas. It's because they've got that like family dynamic and that background built in. Um, yeah, and then there's so many references to Christmas. There's Christmas music, there's the setting. There's the only reason that that building is filled with people on the day that the bad guy wants to do stuff is because they're having a Christmas party. Otherwise, the whole building would be empty and then they'd be able to steal things like they want anyway. So, things like that, it's kind of fun to make your own rubric in your head and watch Christmas movies that way. I also, people who call shenanigans and say that Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie, and yet they love Home Alone. It's just a kid doing the exact same thing that Die Hard is. Like, one has machine guns and the other has nail guns, but it's the same. Like, it's so similar. It's that too is a very Christmassy movie. The reason that all these families are leaving is because of Christmas. So, anyway, I found quite a few things on Netflix that are basically the same as Home Alone, just done again, or basically, like I said, the same as Mrs. Doubtfire. A lot of things that are like, oh, we're not going to think of a new script, we're just going to make it Christmassy. I'm excited. I'm going to watch and I'm going to find out. I also on Netflix was one thing that I was curious to see how many Santa hats I would give it, was Carry On, as in the object in an airplane that you bring and you stow above head is a carry-on item. Jason Bateman's in it, and it's in an airport. And just as a genre, it's a there's a bomb on the plane kind of genre. So it's all about figuring that out. And I gotta say, they really, the first 15 minutes, they hit hard that it was Christmas and then completely forgot. And the rest of the movie, they didn't reference it like at all. And then at the end, the epilogue, like somebody had a Santa hat again. Like they genuinely were like, oh shit, it's a Christmas movie. I forgot. And bam, there's a hat. Very silly. But I wanted to watch. When I know that it's just going to be ludicrous, it's kind of like a what do you think a Christmas movie is kind of a thing. And this one was a fine movie, but it was like no Christmas, although there was like a car crash scene and they were like driving and it's like speed racing and everything and they're hitting the radio and what comes on? A Christmas song. So that was kind of funny. When they're like, I guess we'll shoehorn it in here. It's silly and I don't hate it, You can't take life too seriously. That one was a great one to knit during because you didn't have to pay attention at all. I these have been some of my things that I've been interested in this year. I would love to know what recommendations you have. All streaming platforms, even renting things from the library. What are either your dark horse favorite Christmas movies, like things that aren't Christmassy at all and yet you still like It's a Wonderful Life hardly has much to do with Christmas. It's just because people like watching it at Christmas and there's one Christmas scene. Harry Potter is the same way. People, frequently associate that with Christmas because there's a whole marathon on like the 24th or the 25th. And so people are like, "Oh, it's Christmassy." There's only one Christmas scene. It's a whole year at Hogwarts. Yeah, are you going to go downstairs? What you going to do? So yeah, let me know in the comments. I'd love to either know recommendations that you think I should watch, what do I think of it kind of thing, or just let other people know that your favorite, maybe it can be super traditional like Elf or like The Grinch or anything like that. Those are fine too. Let me know your favorite Christmas movie or the strangest one that you ended up liking. I gotta say, Hot Frosty, I was not expecting to be so good, but I highly recommend it. It was so fun. So, and eventually I'll finish that book. I'll be able to tell you whether or not I like that. Enough segueing about Christmas movies and Christmas books and things like that. Let's get down to Christmas knitting. I'm going to save my Stephen West for just a second. First, I wanted to talk about Advent knitting. So, I've got Lux Yarns, and this is the Yarn Goddess kit. It's like a 12 day kit. I think I talked about it before. But yeah, it's Lux Yarns, Lux. It's really great. They're usually at Chicago Yarn Con, and I've got things from them previously, and I've really liked it. So this is what I've got so far. I'm calling it my Fibonacci Advent yarn, and I'll show you. So I mentioned earlier in a different video that I was going to get the the Radvent cardigan. So this is just the first page. I'm sure this is just a little blurb. It's not really giving away anything. But this is what it's going to look like. You can see the sleeve is like you really slowly increase until it gets pretty, till it gets next to your arm and gets pretty deep. And then you do just a little bit down here, as well as button bands and stuff. So that's the pictures of what I'm making. And again, it's called the Radvent cardigan. You can do this with any fade. You can do this with, one giant skein of yarn. You don't have to follow the fact that it's an advent, but I am. And mine is a fade. So, as I mentioned, it's a 12 days Christmas. So this is that white part, the real neutral right here. This is day 1, and then you slowly incorporate day 2 is that light brown, and you can see see if you can see that striping. So at first I did the Fibonacci sequence as I mentioned. So there was 1 and then there's 8 and then 1 and 5 and then 2 and 3 and 2 and 3. Anyway, I then I did some math and I figured out my gauge and I realized I couldn't do 8 anymore because 8 on each side, like added 16 to the whole thing. 17, 18, including the 1 and 1 there. So instead I went with 153 for the next one. So that's why you don't see it nearly as much like the band of the other stuff, as well as the colors that I had. They slowly incorporate the next color as they are a fade. So it looks really streaky here, but like certain parts of this is 18 rows of just one color. And then we slowly incorporate more and more. And so this is the newest color, is this one that has like little bits of mint, but there's also like brown in there. And then this dark color is actually the last day. I saw when I looked on Ravelry at other people's project pages. Um, I was trying to figure out, if I don't recall what the actual color palette is, what can I do for button bands? You know, do you actually need to start with a button band, or could I do that afterwards later? Or, what? And then I saw somebody on a project page do, the same kind of a color gradient from one side to the other, and then they switched which colors on each cuff. So this is where this color is going to be what ends on the other side, and then I'm going to have the cuff of white. So I'm excited and I appreciate the person who did that, which is really fun. That's why I love Ravelry. You get community, even though people don't know what you're working on. You're just inspired by pictures, years later. So that was really fun to find that. And then I also got a peek at what week 12 was. For this one, I think I got this Advent a year and a half ago. I know I ordered it in the summertime. I think I got it last year in the winter, like right around November. And at the time I was like, oh no, I'm, not going to necessarily make anything during December using this yarn now. So what I did is I took a peek at every single color to make sure that it would make something that I liked, just because I didn't want to commit to like opening something and then being like, and not like wasting like 8 days of knitting on something that I didn't necessarily love. Not to mention here, you're breaking yarn. I don't want to waste yarn in that way either. So this time last year, I did open up all 12. If I needed to do any rearranging, I did. I'm pretty sure I didn't, but just in case, I wanted to see things all the way that I had it situated. And so past me knew what I liked and then went and picked out a pattern. So I knew how much yardage I had. I knew what size enough I was going to be and things like that. And so then I picked this pattern way back then, a year ago. I Then a year goes by and I completely forget all the colors and everything. All I know is that I was making this pattern because I literally had like, on my queue, this pattern plus the note of that I was going to use the Luxe yarn as an advent. And now I've been opening it and I really love the like, oh, there's that color and there's that. And and none of it's bringing back a do you remember from last year? No. So I really like this idea. And I got to say, if you're one who's hesitant about doing advents because you don't know what you're going to get, I recommend doing that, because to me, a year goes by and I don't remember anything that had happened. And all of a sudden now I can trust myself and know that like I planned it, that this is day 1, this is day 3, and that it's all going to work out. I've done that before too. At one point I bought a just miscellaneous 24 mini skeins, and it was while I was making blankets. I Maybe it wasn't a blanket, it was a cardigan, so maybe that was 12. I don't recall. But either way, I bought something in January, set it all out, figured it all out, and then got each one like bundled so that this is day 1, this is day 2, this is day 3, and so on. And then I waited until, I think that year I didn't even do it the following December. I did it like the year after. So it had been 2 years and all I had to do was just trust that the color coordination that I went with before was going to work and it was all going to be good. And that I ended up liking as well. So it's just a matter of, if you're not one to necessarily love super all the mystery, like again, especially when you're spending this much money on yarn and an advent, a lot of times they are not cheap because they add there's, either 12 or 24, maybe even four, four skeins, one for like each week before Christmas. Um in any of those scenarios when it's like hand dyed, it's not going to be a cheap thing. So it's a way to ensure that you will like your end product and that you will like what you're going to do. And then you just have to trust yourself to forget, I and if you remember a little bit, that's okay too. Because opening things and then like doing the project, that's just the way to do it. I This advent I've really been liking too because each day, let me get it out of the little pocket. Each day they talk, that you open it and there's a little like passage that talks about things. So day one is about how you're gonna like turn this yarn and spin it into something. Day two is about casting on, and suddenly you're like your project's amazing and it's gonna do something. And then the dance of the needles. It's really cute. I'm absolutely loving this. And then this one in particular, I had forgotten because again, I had opened up and looked into all the different colors of yarn to make sure that I liked it. I didn't look at anything else. There are like little presents inside as well, which is so fun. So like this bag itself was part of my advent, which is fun. It's got little grommets, and right now I've got two colors coming out of it for that Fibonacci bit. And so they're coming out of there. There's little pockets. And then another day I got itty bitty scissors, which you like unfold and then they become like real size, which they tuck right in. And then that way, when I'm done, I just snip instead of having to worry about breaking it with my hand or finding other scissors. And there's just been lots of little cute things like that, little soaks and stuff, tea. It's just been lovely. So that's what I'm really excited about. I'll show you. Oh, I moved it over here. I'll show you the balls that I am working on. So you can see they're very similar because it is such a fade. But so this one is the first, like, so this one's like day 4 and this one's day 5, or 3 and 4. I don't really recall. But so this one's got a little less brown and a little bit more blue, and this one's got more brown and less blue because we were going from that brown neutrals, and now it seems like we're shifting into blue. So this was day 1, that like real neutral that's next to the cuff. It's like hardly touched, but you can see there's little bits. Again, let me see if I can get the shade. Do, do, do. Anyway, there's little bits of brown in here. And then these are the next two, which you can see as well how they fade. So this one's the lighter one that then starts. And then we've got that, which is beautiful as well. So these are my extras right now because each one was a 50-gram skein, which is going to be really, really helpful when I get to like the chest part. But on the cuffs, it's not necessarily, I won't need as much. This one I'll use on the cuff of the opposite. I was thinking, depending on what color it's going to be when it gets to the chest, I might use things like this for the button band, especially because I've got plenty. Only because it's this part of the sweater, whereas this part I'm going to use a lot of the 50 grams. I think I'll still have a little bit left over, but I will have a significant portion of the 50 grams left over. I'm really excited. Soon, I think after maybe tomorrow, I start on the other side and then knit that way, and then you like combine it. I'm very curious. I'm excited. It's going to be so cool. But with so many things, including what I'm wearing, when it's multicolors, it's always the like horizontal stripes. This is going to be vertical, and I'm very excited. It looks really cool. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen. and what color is going to come next. And I think it's just great. So I've really been loving on that. Um, and I say, if you're one who's thinking about an advent or like in the summer you stumble across one that you like, if you've got it, I say splurge and get it for yourself. To me, this is like my Christmas gift to myself every single day, and I really like doing it. You sit down, you watch those cheesy movies, and then you just, maybe by the end of the month they'll have a sweater. We'll see. So I've really been enjoying that. I've been thinking it's really fun. And then when I finish, I'm working on my Stephen West blanket. I'm so close to being done. I'm really excited. I can't recall where I finished last. I mean, I've got a general idea. I think maybe I had finished this section and just started this one. Uh, or maybe I had just finished this section and started this. But yeah, I'm going to show you. So again, just a reminder, I was doing the Stephen West Mystery MusiKAL. I ended up doing it in DK, so it is a blanket rather than a shawl. And because it is a blanket, when the end result was that really narrow and long shawl, I kept the length. I didn't want to make it keep getting bigger, so I kept it that same length. And now I'm just making the border so much longer, so that way that like U shape kind of the bottom of the U can be like where my feet are on the couch, and then I'm gonna take the rest of it up towards my hips. So just to flaunt all the stuff, honestly, a reminder for me of what I've done. It's been so long at this point. So here's all of our fun scallops. That's week 3. Some basket weave too, and we've got these guys. So this for me has led to this section, which is my border. And over here, because it was very asymmetrical, uh, which I guess pattern wise it still is, but the shape itself was asymmetrical. It was like thin on one side and wavy on another. I wanted to thick up the other side. So I went from the Harlequin and the baskets to this real large stockinette section of triangles. So and then to reflect the triangles and mirror it back, I did some triangles here. And that went to the squiggle section. Do, do, do. There we go. And then the border went across the whole thing. So you can see these green rectangles are going across everywhere. Then I had a vertical, so the green is vertical stripes, then horizontal. And then I did the painting squares from the Painting Shawls book from Stephen West, some more garter stripes, and now I am on another section of painting columns. Here, if you can see, this dark green that was the one that I slipped rather than purled is now the section that I'm purling. And this, pretty average green, this like darker foresty green, but not as dark as this green. This one is not represented anywhere else in the blanket, but I just wanted to hit home like green at the very end. I also only have one skein, I think 10, maybe 15 grams of this. So I think this couldn't be used anywhere else, and I hope it's even going to be able to finish this. Then I'll have to figure out what color to I-cord or whether I want a Pico bind off or anything like that. I also, now that I'm so close to being done, I've got 3 purl sections already, and here I did 5, so I only have 2 more little purl sections. And then I can either do an I-cord bind off and be done with up here, or I can do like a dip stitch section and have one more time of like every color represented. And I think the dip stitch would even kind of mimic the scallops, like that shape. It would do that same kind of little shape. But I don't know. I also like a piece of me wants to be finished with this, and another piece of me is like, but I want it long enough that Because right now when I put it down, it hits here, like right below my belly button, and I wouldn't mind it being like here on the couch, you know? I'd like it just a little bit more coverage as a lap blanket. And if I do cover my bottom feet and I sit with my partner, you know, us both, we get it down here, like, whereas I'd like it just a little bit higher. But I'm really loving this process. I think it's going great. As you can see, now the rows are really long, but I think this is fun. And I honestly, in my opinion, you can't tell where the Mystery Make-Along shawl pattern officially stops and where my thing starts. It might be because it is more Stephen West patterns, uh, or you know, like he even mentioned the border being a garter here. I think it was gonna be different. Like mine ended up being two littles on each end and then, you know, bigger stripes in the center. Same thing here. I did these two as a color combo because I wanted to kind of I mimic this blue and green welt section. So there it is. And then here you can see is the brioche. So it's vertical and horizontal and vertical and horizontal. So that was the goal of trying to reflect here, but still do it in a fun way. Yeah, I didn't end up doing eyelets. I forgot that this even had eyelets in it, but it's fine. So yeah, I this is where I'm at. I'm very close to being done unless I decide to add even more length for my border, and then if that's the case, then I'll have some more to do, and that's okay. I've never done a Pico bind off, so maybe this is the time to try. And instead of going with like another dip stitch, you know, kind of border, just being done with this section and then doing a cool Pico bind off in maybe like the teal color. Which one? Maybe this color. Because this like teal green, this one I've got a lot of yarn, because I didn't know how much yardage all of this would take. So this one I've got a little bit extra. So I by a little bit, I mean a lot. I but yeah, I'm loving this and I think it's so crazy and cool and I love it and it's been really fun to be like designy. I know I already talked about Game of Wool, but there's so much designing in Game of Wool instead of here's a pattern, just follow it. And it really makes me want to get more into that. I when I did baby blankets before I started making garments, I did so much just making up stuff or going into a Stitch dictionary and like finding whatever I wanted. And then other times I would just be like, this is what I'm picturing. How do I make it? And you know, so I felt a lot more free. And then I made one sweater and I took like a free pattern and modified it heavily. Like I crocheted the sleeves. I did a whole different stitch pattern on the body. I was even going to wear that sweater today. Maybe next time. How about that? Um, I used completely different yarn from the recommendation, and believe it or not, when you do all those changes, it was still pretty okay, but it's like the sleeves pinch a little bit and when you wear it, like the yarn is so thick and heavy that it really can only be worn as like a robe. So that's when I was like, okay, you spent like 5 months on this. Maybe next time buy a pattern. And I did, and I've got that Stephen West sweater and painting bricks and I love that, and I wear that all the time. I think it's so great. It's so wearable. Uh, so there's great things to buying a pattern, but there's something about creating that makes it so fun. And when it's not a garment, like I feel like there's no wrong answers. So this has made me get really excited about this. It's made me want to like make Christmas stockings and a Christmas tree skirt and all these things that like don't necessarily have a wrong shape or a wrong size. And just kind of design and wing it myself. So I think it's fun. I so yeah, it's unleashing like it's unlocking little pieces of me. And then watching Game of Wool, that's just encouraging more to design. All right. Well, I talked a lot today. This is a longer video, but I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you're staying warm if you're chilly. It has been so cold here in Chicago, like dogs needing coats inside the house, kind of cold. But they're all happy and they're doing great. I hope you are as well, whether you're, is somewhere that you don't really worry about it being super cold, or whether you're even chillier than me. Maybe you're in like Buffalo, New York or something, and it's freezing. I don't know. So let me know in the comments, what is your ideal Christmas festive weather? Earlier when it started snowing, I was so excited to be like, oh, let's get home, let's knit. It's cozy. I cannot wait to be bundled up, have some tea, and get some stitching done. I let me know what your favorite, either season or weather is to knit in. And again, I would love to hear either book recommendations or movie recommendations that are festive and fun. I honestly, since I'm into like the murder mystery right now, book recommendations of any kind don't have to be Christmassy at all. Um, so yeah, I have a great day and I hope everything goes great. Oh, good, there is more. I thought it was empty. Now it is. I So yeah, from my house to yours, I hope that you're crafting like you only live once, and if you're not having a great time, take a break. Take a minute. Even if it's a gift knit and you're rushing to get it done, that's all right. You can give it to them at New Year's. You can give it to them in Valentine's. You can give it to them in spring. There's always later. It's okay. Take a break, breathe, and just remember that this is a hobby and you like this. So I hope you're enjoying yourself. I hope you're having a great time. Have a great day.